Okay, let's get started with today's webinar. Uh, so first of all, good evening or good night or good morning. So I would like to thank the the ATM group, Agile Transformation Minds group, Davis, Naveen, Anand, for giving me an opportunity to share my experience on Scrum and why it's hard to implement Scrum. And from a practitioner perspective, I'll be sharing some of my experiences and what are some of the possible remedies that can be applied to make Scrum work in the organizations. So with that thank you note, I would like to get started with my presentation. So, so feel free to post your questions on the group chat, in the chat window. I'll try to answer them as well. This is for 1 hour, so I'll try to make it interactive as possible, as much as possible as well. So I hope all of you guys can hear my voice clearly.
Yeah. We could able to hear your voice.
Okay. Okay, so let me get started. So today's topic is why Scrum is hard to implement, new perspectives, and how do you remediate from an agile practitioner perspective. So any guesses why did I choose sunflower in my first slide of the presentation? Hello? So Davis, have you muted all of them?
No. We are not muted.
So guys, my question is, any guesses why did I choose sunflower in my first slide of the presentation? Okay, I'll just continue with it. So the fundamentally why I chose this is, if you see it right, the sunflower, it turns its directions depending on the location of the sun. So it quickly adapts to the situation. I mean, it's as per the nature's behavior, right? So automatically it changes its direction based on the location of the sun. So Scrum is also one of the framework which is mainly meant for bringing the necessary change in the organization, the way in which teams develop products or build products and deliver it to the customer. So that's where, with that change mindset is very much important. That's where I chose this as the theme. So a little bit about myself. I've been with IT industry for last 20 years. I started my career in software testing. I was into testing for 10 years. Then I became a project manager, delivery manager. Then I got into Scrum Master role and Agile coach as well. Currently, I'm an Agile coach. So last 10 years, I've been practicing Agile, predominantly in Scrum and Kanban. And recently, I'm SAFe as well, Scaled Agile Framework. And I've done most of the certification related to Agile, both from Scrum Alliance and Scrum.org, and one architectural certification, which is TOGAF. And I worked in both product-based and service-based companies and captive center of Tesco as well. So that is a brief background about myself. So today's agenda, we're going to see about the first things first. I'll talk about what is the Scrum framework is all about, the core part of it. Then we'll start getting into my perspectives as an Agile practitioner, why Scrum is hard to implement, and what are some of the possible remedies that can be applied. Again, this may not be very perfect solutions, but these are the possible remedies that can be applied in your context as well. and I'll end with some final thoughts. And we will have question and answers as well. And and during the presentation as well, I keep looking at the chat window. If there is any questions that we want to see, I want to answer, I'll try to answer it then and there itself. So the first things first. So what is Scrum? So this is, if you see this is the definition of Scrum as per Scrum Guide. If you see this, the key words are, it's a framework for developing, delivering on complex products. So it's not a methodology as such. It's a lightweight framework for building and the developing and delivering, sustaining complex products. Again, it says, the Scrum Guide says it's a framework within which people, if you see this, the items which I marked in red, those are very much important keywords here. We'll come back to these words in a while. So, but just make a note of these keywords which is marked in red. So it's a framework within which people can address complex adaptive problems while productively and creatively delivering products of the highest possible value. So as most of you are the Scrum practitioners here, the main idea is to deliver the highest business value that can be delivered fast, and the low priority items that can be delivered in a subsequent sprints. So that is the main purpose. Scrum founders like Ken Schwaber and Jeff Sutherland, they have built up this framework, mainly focused on building the complex products, but it can be applied in other operational or any service areas as well. But mainly when they started developing this Scrum framework, the main focus was to develop the complex the software development products. So as I mentioned, it is not a methodology as such. When the moment we talk about methodology, it's mainly it's all rigid. It's a heavyweight methodology like waterfall techniques, right? So it's a heavyweight methodology wherein we have a set of principles, tools, practices, process, which has to be rigidly followed to achieve a particular goal. So that is the difference between a methodology and a framework. Whereas when you look at framework, it is a loosely coupled, lightweight framework in which it intentionally they made it in any framework as an incomplete structure, so that there is a room for other practices or tools or techniques or methods that can be employed within that overall framework. So the framework is more of a flexible in nature, but each and every framework will also have its own rules. So as long as we follow those rules and value those values of the framework, within which we can still do we can explore different practice or techniques or tools. So that is the fundamental difference between methodology and a framework. So Scrum is one such framework which is a lightweight in nature. As you are all of you guys are aware, it has just 3 roles: Scrum Master, Product Owner, and Dev Team. And it has 5 events: the sprint planning, daily Scrum, sprint review, and sprint retrospective. And we have 3 artifacts: product backlog, sprint backlog, and product increment. So it's if you look at this, all these elements, 3-5-3, 3 roles, 5 events, and 3 artifacts. It looks a very simple framework, but it's still, though it looks very simple to understand, but the implementation aspect is what is challenging in the organizations. So that is what my topic is all about. Trying to talk about some of the new perspectives that I experienced, and I want to willing to share with you, all of you guys. So broadly, in the next 45 minutes, I'm going to focus on 3 aspects. I'm not trying to dig into too much of details. Of course, all of us know change is very hard. So it requires a lot of shift in mindset and a lot of flexibility, adjusting to different the mindset. Again, this mindset involves at all levels in the organization, right from leadership level, middle level management, and also the team level. So it is very hard. It's not that easy. So I'm not talking too much about mindset and all those aspects. So mainly my focus about my perspective is about mainly on these three aspects. One is the first one is I'm going to talk through about lack of thorough understanding of empiricism, and the second one I'm going to talk about Hallo Effect, and the third one is about lack of alignment to Scrum values. So broadly, I'm going to talk mainly about these three areas. Of course, mindset is definitely a very mindset and culture of the organization very much important. I'm not denying that. So, but my mainly focus is from the practical implementation perspective. These are some of the challenges that I encountered, and I'll focus on more of these topics. So now, dwelling into details of empiricism. So I believe you guys are familiar with this. So you guys are familiar with this Canadian framework, which is one of the Dave Snowden has proposed this Canadian framework. Basically, it talks about how do the problems or situations or challenges fall in different domains. So, for example, if you have the first domain or the quadrant it's called as simple domain, wherein a particular problem is very much clear and you know the solution. For example, when you're stepping out of house, if your vehicle is not starting, if your tire is flat, you know the problem, right? You cannot move, you cannot start the vehicle. So if you observe the flat tire, you know what to do. You get that punctured and fill the air, then you can get started. So here such are the problems wherein the problem is very much clear and the solution is very much known. Both problem and the solution domains are very much known to us. We can simply follow the best practices. For example, you sense a particular situation, I mean the action involved will be sense the situation, then categorize that into some bucket, then respond to it. So as I mentioned about the vehicle, right? So this is where the waterfall approach fall in. If all your requirements are fixed, timeline is fixed, and if it is not really, scope is not really changing, there is no change expected in the middle of the project. If you have the fixed budget, timeline, everything is fixed, and scope is not changing, definitely we can, waterfall still works better there. So we should not be trying to apply agile over there. So here the best practices will definitely always work. The other example is in manufacturing sectors. All those things, the manufacturing and the factory settings, all those best practices will work because it's repeatable in nature. So the problem is very much clear and the solution can be applied by following the exact procedure. So that is the simple domain that we are talking about. All the waterfall, the manufacturing or factory setup and all works perfectly fine in the simple domain. Moving on to the second domain, the complicated domain. So here the situation gets more difficult. See, for example, again continuing with the same example which I talked about, the vehicle. In case, let's say, when you're about to start your vehicle, if it is not starting, if you look at your tire, the tire seems to have the air in it, but and fuel, you have the necessary fuel, but still it's not starting. So that is where the things are becoming more complicated now. So you do not know how to fix this problem, right? So that is where we will try analyzing the problem, but we'll sense it, then we'll respond. So in this particular case, the example which I took it, so if you are, you do not, it's most likely that if you do not find a root cause for the problem, then that's where you require some help from an SME, like subject matter expert, like a mechanic or someone whom you want to go to him or call him, and you will ask him to look at the issue that the vehicle is facing, and he will fix it. So that is where we will start some expert advice. So this is the complicated domain. Mostly the Kanban and all, the Kanban framework, which is one of the, again, Agile framework, mostly fits in here. Now relating this back to the software development, the production support tickets and all, right? So that's where the moment the tickets come in, we have depending on the severity of the defects, right? Whether it's a P1, P2, and each of these types of tickets will have its own SLAs. So definitely, depending on the complexity and the volume of work involved, these tickets will get passed to either L1, L2, L3, and definitely it requires some kind of investigation. Then you'll start getting the fixes for these tickets. So that's where mostly the Kanban operates. So that this is the domain we're talking about, complicated domain. The third domain is, again, we're talking about as we're calling that as a complex domain. Here the problem is lot of unknowns. So the second domain, see, in the first domain it was the problem was known, solution was known. Here in the second domain, the complicated domain, the problem is known and the solution is unknown. So whereas in the complex domain, the problem itself is not very clear. So it becomes much more complicated. That is where the framework like Scrum will come into picture, because if you see it, the customer himself will not know exactly what exactly he's looking when a product is building. So that's where the product owner interacts with all the stakeholders, customers. He will try understanding his necessary or needs. Then he'll come up with all the product backlog items and get it delivered through the development teams. So that is where, if you see the framework like Scrum, we do a lot of experimentations in terms of getting the work doing. We do it in sprint and get that reviewed by the stakeholders and the POs in the sprint reviews, and get a feedback. Then continue the work in the subsequent sprints. So that's where, if you see this, we try developing the initial increments of the software. Then we will get the feedback and we will get a sense of the customer feelings or feedback. Then again start responding to them. So, and in the subsequent sprint planning meetings, we'll try to address the upcoming requirements or the product backlog items that customer wants to address in our product. So again, coming back to the practice, we call it in this domain as emerging practice, because we are continuously experimenting, doing the trial and error, and we are continuously learning as we go along, and that's where we are building the products. That's where, if you see back the definition of Scrum also, right, it's a framework for developing and delivering and sustaining the complex products. So the practice that we follow is here is the emerging practice, whereas in the simple domain it was best practice. In the complicated domain, it was the good practice. So, because we had to rely on some of the SMEs and the experts to solve the problems, whereas here it involves a lot of trial and experiment by the team itself, by working with the product owner and the Scrum Masters and the stakeholders. And the fourth domain is, it's called chaos. So here, if you see it, right, there's a lot of unknowns. Neither the problem is the problem is clear, nor the solutions. So that is where we'll have to act and sense the response from the surroundings, then accordingly respond to the situations. So here it's total chaos. So this is where we call this practice as novel practice. The best example that I can give here is, let's say you go to along with your team, you go to an outing, and let's say you, as a team, in case if you get lost in a jungle, then you will not know how to join back your group. So that's where we will start. You'll start going in some directions. If you find you could see, if you could see your group, some of the group team members, you will continue in that path, or you'll have to change the direction and try to find out. Because when you go for trekking or any kind of team building activities in a forest and all, right, in case if you get lost, that's a total chaos environment. That is where you will have to start acting and see if you are able to see some footprints of your team members or some kind of signs that they left behind. You will be able to join them back. Otherwise, you will try to change your directions. So that's where you'll act on you'll take some random decision and act on it, and you'll sense it. If that is favorable to you, you'll continue in that direction, or you change the directions. So that mode is, we call it as chaos mode, the chaos domain. It's all the new practices. You just try doing something. So it's totally a new practice that is called novel practice. So our idea is to try and get it into this ad hoc mode, ad hoc or chaos mode, into complex domain and to the complicated domain. And if everything is clear, we can get into simple domain. So the software development typically happens between these two regions, complicated and complex. That's why we see either Scrum or Kanban used in the Agile software developments. So this is the fundamental one of the framework which explains when to use waterfall, when to use Agile frameworks like Scrum and Kanban. And Scrum is built upon the theory called empiricism, which is nothing but empirical process control. What it basically says is that empiricism mainly says that it is the knowledge comes from experience, and decisions can be taken by what is known to us. So it's doesn't really only rely on the theory. It is from the practical experience that we face in our life. Based on that, we can inspect and adapt. So if you see this, the cartoon of Dilbert's, it's self-explanatory, right? So here these two colleagues are trying to have a chat in the pantry, wherein they know the project status. So they are very transparent with each other, and they see definitely they are not going to deliver this project. But after this, their conversation in the pantry, once they get back to the desk, and a boss or a manager who comes and asks this guy, how is the project going? He's just saying fine. So he's not really transparent. So we generally have a misconception that the managers are not really helping us. Who knows? He could be a true leader or a servant leader who might help him. So in this case, we clearly see lack of transparency or lack of trust between these two guys, leader, the manager, and the knowledge worker, team member. So it's very much important that transparency plays a very vital role in the team, the teams that we work, or in the organization that we work. So Scrum is built on these fundamental three pillars: transparency, which is mainly talking about making this the entire process visible to all the people who are responsible for delivering the outcome. And the second pillar is the inspection, which is about mainly frequently checking the artifacts, the product backlogs, sprint backlog, and the increment, that we are delivering it as part of the sprint deliverables. Is it going as per the requirements? I mean, as per the quality requirements, which is nothing but definition of done, and also the sprint goal, which is mainly meant for achieving a certain business value. So the frequent checking is what we are calling it as inspection. And this is a typo. I couldn't correct this. It's not adoption, it is adaptation. So it's basically based on the inspection that we did it. So it's about adjusting the process and making sure we bring the whole overall process in line with the limits, either that we are expecting the outcome or the deliverables to be in line with what we focus towards the sprint goal. So Davis? So looks like there are some questions here. Can they directly speak here, or you want me to go through their questions and answer?
It's up to you, Krishna. You can take up.
Yeah. So because I cannot hear any one of them, because I see a lot of questions here. It looks like they're all blocked. Okay, or I'll unmute. I'll unmute. Yeah.
Hello, this is Asha. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry, who? Asha?
Yeah. My question is related to some examples in the chaotic environment.
Yeah, chaotic environment. Yeah, I'll just go back to that. So I was talking about, right. So let's say you go to a trekking with a team. Let's say you're near a forest or anywhere, right? So by any chance, if you get lost in that within your group, then you'll get into chaos mode. You don't know. You'll start searching for your team members, right, or the group with which you went for a trekking. So that is where you'll get into chaos mode. You will try, see, because you may not really get the signals there, the phone signals or whatever it is. In those cases, what will you do? Asha, can you hear me?
Sorry, I can hear you.
Yeah. So in those situations, how will you respond? So probably you will see even the mobile signals may not work. So that's where you will start doing something. You will try calling the mobile, or if a mobile doesn't work, the signals are not available, then you will try tracing their footsteps of your team member, your team, your friends or team members, or something you will try to find out to figure out if there is a path through which you can go back and join your troop, right? So that is the chaos mode I'm talking about. So you will act on that. Then if you see, okay, you are going in the right direction, and that could potentially take you back to the troop, then you'll continue in that direction, or you will start finding a new ways. There is no definite solution in the chaos mode. You will act on something, then you'll guess on it, and if you feel it's going in the right direction, you'll continue on that path, or you'll change the course corrections. So that is what we are talking about, chaos domain.
Chris, Mihir here.
Yeah.
So I wanted, can you give some like real-time example, software example instead of jungle, all these things? Any software example?
Yeah, software examples. Let's say you are put in a project. In the middle of the project, the let's say the Scrum Master or I mean any team member are put in the middle of projects. So what do you think the environment could be? There is a lot of, for example, we have seen a lot of projects which are into deep red status, right? So a lot of firefighting situation will be there. So you'll not know how to respond to that situations. So because if you are there in the project from the beginning, you will understand the full context. But if you are put in the project in the middle of the project, where the status of the progress, the health of the project is red, and there's a lot of escalations are happening, team morale is very down, you see a lot of attrition, a lot of escalations from customers, the quality issues are there. So that is a total chaos environment. So you definitely take a lot of time to understand that and fix that issues. Is this sounds familiar to you guys here?
Yeah, okay. So my question is like, so you are telling like middle of the project somebody added. So is this the empiricism diagram says about like this is in the middle of the project or before?
No. This is a framework. This is not about only about software development. This is the framework that Dave Snowden has proposed to understand different situations in life that we encounter. It's not, this is not specific to only software development or agile. This is a generic framework. So we are trying to map how software development, different software SDLC models like waterfall, agile, all those things fit in this model. So this is not specific to only software development or anything like that. So it is a generic framework that can be used anywhere.
Okay, we'll relate something. Yeah.
Any other question on this Canadian framework? It's pronounced as it's Dave Snowden. This is a Welsh word, so it's pronounced as Canadian framework, not as Cinefin framework.
Hello.
CINEIN.
Hello, this is Manu. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah.
See, another example which could be taken is, see, when we are doing a product, initial product development, and we have many customers who want to take the product according to their requirements. So I, as a product development company, what do I do? So I will do a market research on in which areas I want to focus in so that I can get more customers. So I may be in that scenario. That could be taken as a chaotic situation because I still don't know what the future is, how the future is going to be. I'm making a guessed decision. So in future, I may be in a better situation or I may land in a worse situation. And depending on
Yeah,
the
yeah,
decision which I make now, I may land up in a better situation. So I
yeah.
may
So
have to adapt continuously.
correct. The idea is to how quickly can we move from the chaos to complex domain and complex to complicated to the simple. So the more and more teams get matured, right? So then we can the end state is we can get into simple mode, but that is not always true. So depending on the situations, we'll have to adapt these practices. Either a
Chaotic situations generally emerge when when there is a big fight happening. There's a big decision uh, discussion which is pending because of lack of decision making in a project.
correct.
Discussion which is ongoing, which is because of lack of decision making in a project between the customer and, say, classic example would be because of cost. Nobody is able to take a decision, and schedule is still stuck.
Yeah, that could be one possibility. See, that's where lack of transparency, lack of trust, lack of collaboration, all those things might result in different situations. So
But
we'll have to.
generally, chaotic situations are in mostly in product scenarios. It doesn't generally product development companies is
No, it
what.
can happen in even I've seen it in when I was in Cognizant. I've seen it in some of the engagements wherein we had all the red projects or engagements. It could happen anywhere, of course.
But no,
Yeah,
but if you are in red, you should probably have your contract written in such a way. What will you do when a red situation arises? So if your contract is pretty strong, then the red situations can be avoided altogether.
yeah. I mean, yeah, there is no right solutions we can really try to bring the red project into green. Definitely, it requires some kind of investigation and firefighting situations and then move them back to green status. Of course, it's not just one solution fits all the needs. So depending on the context, we'll have to start fixing those problems. So in the interest of
Yes.
time, yeah, so let's go ahead with this I, and we'll have other three the topics to cover. Then I'll definitely give some more time wherein we can have more interactive opportunities as well. So as you guys are aware, what gives us this opportunity for empiricism in Scrum? Any guesses? So it's mainly all the events gives us the opportunity to inspect and adapt, right from sprint planning, daily scrum, sprint review, sprint retrospectives, because each and every event is meant for a specific purpose to inspect either a product backlog or inspect the sprint backlog and the sprint goal and adapt according to the progress that we are making, and also inspect the overall product increment that comes at the end of the sprint. So all these four events, the formal events, helps us in identifying the issues and inspecting and adapting in Scrum. So those are the opportunities we are talking about. So that way, all the three fundamental pillars of empirism, transparency, inspection, and adaptation, gets automatically gets covered when we do this events and follow the Scrum rules diligently. And so this is some of the remedial aspects which I talk about. It's not just about as I discussed about the Canadian framework. It's not that Scrum always solves our problems. Agile or Scrum will not solve all our problems. It is the people who get involved in the entire process. It can be change agents, leaders, and the team members, everyone, all the aspects, right? The people, if you, as I mentioned, the people aspect plays a very vital role, and definitely they can solve. And if they are willing to solve, we can solve the organization or systematic impediments. Again, it's not just that the Scrum Master's responsibility to only fix all the impediments. It can be beyond, some of the items can be beyond his control. That is where we'll have to rely on the leaders and won't talk to them, collaborate, and try to resolve the systemic or organization impediments. The second aspect is we get overwhelmed with being a Scrum Master, Agile coach. We try to solve the problems with whatever position was given to us. Because as I mentioned, when I read through some of the Ken Schwaber's, the founder of Scrum blogs, his blogs, he talks about art of the possible. So what it says is we need to understand the current context or a situation. Then slowly we'll start, as a change agents, we'll start increasing the circle of influence. Only then we can start bringing the change in mindset in people. Even when I was a Scrum Master, when I started my journey as a change agent, as a Scrum Master, I was into kind of circle of concern, because I was thinking some of the team members were not really understanding the basic stuff that is required for Scrum to operate. So those days I was used to get disappointed or frustrated. So then later on I realized there's a lot of other ways I can try and influence and try to bring the change in them possible with those guys. So definitely it takes time. So that is where we have to look at the possible scenarios and the context. We need to understand the context very well. Then slowly try changing the mindset of people. So let me move on to the second aspect. I'll leave some room space for more questions. So the second aspect I was talking about is Hallo Effect. Any idea what is Hallo Effect? Anyone? Any PMPs here? So okay. So mainly the Hallo Effect, the definition, it says that it's a tendency for an impression to create it in one area to influence opinion in another area. So basically what it says is, if you look at this picture, we might get into some kind of perception about these two guys. So the one who's looking fair, we might identify him as an hero. The other guy, looking at the complexion, we might judge into him as an anti-hero, right? I mean, again, we get into a lot of perceptions, so without really understanding the reality. So the same thing happens. That is what is the effect of Hallo Effect, we call it as. So in PMP also, you must have studied Hallo Effect, right? Basically it talks about it talks about assuming that some of the team members who are technically very sound, they can also be a people manager. They need not be. They may be very good in technical aspect, but when it comes to soft skills or interpersonal skills, they may not be very good at it. So it definitely takes some more time for them to really become a good team leader or a manager. So this is what is the Hallo Effect. Basically trying to form a perception because of one of the previous experience that we had with them. So the other example in marketing is that you buy a product, a good product, a branded product, and we assume that the products built with the other products of the same brand, we assume that it is also of the same quality. I mean, we generally try to come into a conclusion that need not be that's need not necessary, right? So only after you experience that product, and if you like it, then you will trust that brand. So but we cannot always go with the assumption that whatever products that the Apple or Google is building, we cannot always assume that. Of course, the products like iPhone and all, right, they build a very niche scale, the market, but it doesn't mean that all the products that Apple is coming up with, we always will fall in love with it. Definitely we'll have to experience. Of course, most of the Apple products, all of us are definitely love that, but it's not necessary that we always be attached to that brand. So that is the Hallo Effect we are talking about, carrying the perception into different aspects as well. That may not be always be true. So here, can you try guessing what is the hollow effect when I say hollow effect in Scrum? Any guesses? Now that we understand what is an hollow effect, any guesses? Hello? Can you guys hear me?
Can hear.
Okay, let me elaborate on this. So what I mean when I say hollow effect in Scrum. So generally we talk about self-organizing of the teams, right? So we see Scrum is a framework in which we are talking about the development team. This overall Scrum team is a self-organized and cross-functional teams which should be able to deliver a potentially shippable increment at the end of each and every sprint, right? When we talk about self-organizing, it's not that simple to really make them self-organized. Definitely, all the three roles involved in Scrum, product owner, Scrum master, and the development team, they have to have all the necessary skills involved, right? From developing the product and also managing their own work. When we say managing their own work, the project manager responsibility in the traditional world gets distributed across all three of these roles. When it comes to handling the stakeholder management and the ROI, it is the product owner who takes that share of project management work. When it comes to bringing the team's best output, making them work as a team, it is a Scrum Master's responsibility to ensure that a team operates in the team collaboration mode. And when it comes to development teams to track their own work and deliver, that is where we are talking about self-organization. So it definitely takes time for each of these roles to really understand the depth of their roles and become proficient and matured in those roles. That is where we are talking about. We cannot, as a Scrum Master or Agile coach, we should not be expecting them to become very proficient in making them as a self-organized teams in just 1 or 2 sprints. Definitely, it's going to take a lot more time, and each person is different, right? So definitely, all these three unique roles, we have to give them sufficient time to make them to move towards self-organized team, and they can manage themselves. So that is the hollow effect which I was talking about. So how do we remediate it? So offer the role specific coaching, like for the product owner or the development team. So because in a lot of cases, as a Scrum Master, the Scrum Master responsibility to ensure that product owner also might come with a traditional mindset. He would have been a product manager or a business analyst. He would have become a product owner. So definitely, it requires a role specific coaching for all these three roles that we are talking about: development team, product owner, and the Scrum Masters. So if the Scrum Master is not really matured or a capable person, that's where the Agile coach can mentor him or guide him, or depending on the maturity levels, we can offer support to these guys. And we need to have patience and groom these guys and make them really self-sufficient, self-organized, and cross-functional teams over a period of time. So the next aspect the third aspect I wanted to cover is about the Scrum values. So see, Scrum is built on, as I mentioned, it's built on empiricism, which is the fundamental theory of Scrum, and also the Scrum values. So I believe all of you guys would have read through the Scrum guide and familiar with the Scrum values: courage, focus, commitment, respect, and openness. But the question that we'll have to ask ourselves or introspect is that, are we really following these Scrum values to the core? Or is it just displayed in some of the wallpaper or signboards in the organization and just leave it there? Are we really seeing this kind of behaviors are displayed by the Scrum teams each and every day? And is there any examples that we can discuss during the retrospectives? Openly bring out all the issues on the table as a team, try to solve that. Is this all these values being currently displayed is what, as a Scrum Master and Agile coach, we'll have to keep our eyes and ears open always and see whether all these Scrum team members, even that includes product owner, all the dev team members, everyone is really following these or not. So there is this statement in Scrum Guide which clearly says the successful usage of Scrum mainly depends on people becoming proficient. People, and this is mainly on the Scrum team, becoming proficient in living these 5 values. Only then we'll start seeing the benefits and reap the benefits of full benefits of Scrum. Otherwise, most of the cases it will be Scrum but. Scrum but is a term when we use it where we are not really trying to follow 100% the rules of the Scrum. Say, for example, we do daily Scrum, but it doesn't go, it goes beyond 15 minutes. So that is one example of Scrum but. So we do sprint planning, but we do not have enough groomed, the refined backlog items for our sprint planning. So on sprint planning doesn't seems to be effective. That is another example of Scrum but. So that is where we are talking about ensure that the rules of the Scrum is understood properly and it should be followed. That's where the process champion like Scrum Master will come into picture and make the Scrum process really effective. So again, all the people involved, they're personally commit to the achieving the goals of the Scrum team. On a shorter run, it's sprint goal, and the short-term vision is the sprint goal. On the long-term vision is the product goal that product owner sets in the beginning of the project. So now, as a change agents, what I recommend you guys is in one of your retrospectives, you can try these, a small team exercise. You can try doing it. You can identify what are the individual personal values or team values, and what is your current organization values, and how do people really value them and follow them sincerely, and how does these 5 Scrum values resonate or align with the overall organization values. You can try playing a small game with it and see what do people really understand by values, both in terms of Scrum values and the organization values or team values. Do they really care about it, or is it just the sake of talking about values they talk about it? So just to give an example, when I was working with Tesco, there was only 2 values, not really, because I've seen a lot of companies, they have fancy values, 5, 6 or 10 values, but are they really following it? When I ask people, the employees, they don't even remember all the values. So when I was working with Tesco, we had only 2 values. One was customer value and the other one is employee value. The customer value was mainly talking about delighting the customers. The employee value was mainly talking about organization creating that kind of environment and offering the facilities or benefits, and to ensure that employees are very, very happy, who in turn can take care of the customers. If you remember, I think 5-6 years back, former CEO of HCL, Vineet Nair, also had a thought process where he talked about employee first. Rather than, if you see it, most of us, we always talk about customer is the king, customer first. But if you see it, his thought process was completely disrupting. So he was mainly talking about employee first. So those are the some of the aspects that we can discuss with you in next retrospectives and find out what do these values mean to the team members. That includes this product owner, Scrum Master, and the dev team. So how do we remediate some of these values if they are not really being followed? These are some of the possible. As I mentioned, you can try doing this as a team game and find out how people are valuing the values of the company or the Scrum. So do a powerful retrospectives, and you can see how openly people are discussing about it in the retrospectives, right? As a Scrum Master or Agile coach, you can definitely find out by sensing the environment in which the retrospective happens. You can see how people are openly discussing the problems on the table, bringing the problems on the table and trying to resolve it, or are they hiding the problems under the carpet? So those things you can definitely sense as a change agents. And the other possibility is that, of course, this is not a straightforward one. We can directly go and influence it, but you can definitely try working with the HR or the leaders and try making the overall rewards and recognition system also to give some certain percentage which values the behavioral aspects. It's not only about project delivery. For example, in my previous company, when I was working with Sable Travel Technologies, 70% of the overall performance goal was for the delivery of the project. The 30% was related to, again, how the individual is aligned and displaying the Sabre values, the company-wide values, in the way in which he is operating with his peers, leaders, and the team members. So that 30% was the focus that was given in the overall rewards and recognition system. Again, it's not a hard and fast tool. These are some of the ways we can try reinforcing the values of organization, Scrum values, and get the best from the teams. So before I get on to the question and answer session, I just wanted to ask, what is the interpretation of this picture? What does this picture tell you guys? Any guesses? You see the frying pan, and you see some omelets is there, and some meat is there. Any guesses?
I am vegetarian.
Sorry? No, you are a vegetarian. Okay. So, you guys are familiar with in Agile we call as pig and chicken concept. Have you guys heard of this?
Yes.
Pigs and chickens. Okay, so let me elaborate on it. So once once a hen and a pig met, and hen proposed, let's start a restaurant. Pig asked, what is the name that we can give to this restaurant? So the hen said, ham and eggs. The meaning of ham is that ham is it's the flesh of the pig, the thigh portion of the pig. That is what thigh portion of the pig is called ham. So, and the egg is the output from the hen. So if you see this, pig is committed. I mean, pig is killed in the process, and whereas hen is still alive. It is only involved and it gives the egg, but it's still alive. So egg is only involved. So the picture mainly talks about involvement versus commitment. So are you want are you and the teams want to get involved in the process and changing the way in which we are building the product, like this using the Scrum framework, or you want to completely get committed? So that is a question we'll have to ask. So Scrum is also one of the framework which brings a lot of changes in the organization, right? So that is the question we'll have to ask, whether you want to get involved in any kind of transformation initiatives, or you want to be completely get involved. Again, I'm not saying only at the team level. This happens at all levels, right? From leadership level, mid-level manager, mid-level management, and also the team level. So that is the introspections we'll have to start looking at it. You want to get involved, or you want to get committed for the cause or the goal that we are working towards it. So now I'll open this forum for the question and answers. So you can ask me any question about these three aspects: empirism, values, or the Hallo Effect.
How did you bring in alignment of the values of Scrum values versus the org values? What is your experience of bringing the alignment between org values, organization values, and Scrum values? When it breaks, what did you do? Or it was different, what did you do?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, in some of the retrospectives, I tried doing some team building activities in which I tried mapping each of these. See, for example, this is one of the Scrum values, respect. So most of the organization values, one of the common value which is for both Scrum framework and the organization is respect. So so in those cases it's very much easier, right? The Scrum also talks about one of the values respect, the organization value also respect, and but do the people also really value that, value the value called respect? So you can make out by you can also ask them the feedback. So in my experience, when I during at least do every alternate sprints, I used to collect team NPS, team net promoter score. So wherein people used to rate uh, how they how they want to work for this team. I mean, are they it used to give them the morale for them to work in this particular team, or they want to get out of this team or get out of the organization. So it used to give the team NPS metrics, which is mainly about the overall. We were trying to collect the ratings on a scale of 1 to 10, and we used to find out the overall morale of that. That also included some of these values like Scrum, adhering and following to the Scrum values and the organization values. Again, there is no right answer. We cannot really make it in one or two retrospectives and make everyone aligned to the organization values or Scrum values. We'll have to experiment, and we'll have to bring that kind of culture and make everyone really understand what do this value really mean to them. As I mentioned, right, in Tesco we had only two values, but those two are only the very powerful values. One was customer value, one was the employee values. So we'll have to experiment, we'll have to ask teams, we'll have to collect their feedback, then we'll have to try aligning them. Does this make sense?
Yeah, it kind of makes sense, but it is very hard from my experience.
Yeah, it's not that. Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, it's not that straightforward, because individual itself will have his own personal value system, right? So we are talking about organization value, we're talking about team values, we're talking about Scrum values. That is where I said these are some of the challenges that is involved in making Scrum really work. So that is the whole topic I'm trying to talk here. It's not that easy, but at least make people aware. We have to bring this kind of awareness on the ground and make them think. In some cases where the overall culture and environment is really friendly, people definitely get these faster and they will get aligned. In cases where a lot of bureaucracy exists, those cases definitely, even irrespective of whatever exercise or this awareness you bring in, it's very, very difficult, because the overall system is built in a rigid manner.
Okay. And you also mentioned about the rewards and recognition system. Has it helped?
Yeah, so I tried as a Agile coach. I tried giving these inputs, some of the inputs to in my previous organization, because I had a connect with HR, and because again Agile is not only meant for IT or software development. It has to happen throughout the organization. So we have to connect the HR, finance system, the procurement, everything, right? So that is where I could definitely influence to some extent. I'm not saying it is a perfect system I put in place, but at least I could change the direction in which the performance appraisal system was there earlier, and they started moving from strict bell curve based appraisal systems to a flexible appraisal system. Though it was not 100% team based appraisal system, at least they could value some of my suggestions, and they could change from the rigid bell curve based the performance appraisal system to a flexible one.
So what I get from your discussion till now, that organizational support plays a major role for making a Scrum Master life easy. As a Scrum Master, we are always encircled by the organizational practices or policies. So most of the work we do will be only encircled around our teams. But if you want to take it to the next level, as you said, rewards and recognition, then the organization also should be agile.
Correct. See, that's what I'm saying. Again, it's not just it's not organization level. We were talking about, if you see this Scrum guide, it talks about Scrum Master also serves primarily he serves the product owner, he serves the development team, he also serves the organization. So it's not that the transformation is both top down and bottom up. So as a scrum master, so even the scrum master should try and go and, because even he should display the scrum values, openness, courage. He should be able to go and talk to the HR or the leaders and promoting the scrum properly. And then he should try influencing it and make this environment more open and flexible. And so that could also result in the leaders' behavioral changes as well. So it's not always top down. Both has to happen. Top down and bottom up intelligence has to happen. Some of the misconception that it is there in the industry is that Scrum Master is only operates at the team level. Of course, you'll definitely make the teams high performing teams, but it doesn't mean that he's only focused on team level. He should try and influence beyond his team level as well. Of course, it's not that easy, because I've seen the Scrum Master were distributed across multiple teams, like 3, 4. In those cases, definitely will not have bandwidth. So, but that itself, as a Scrum Master, you should be able to challenge the status quo and try and influence the situation in the entire organization, and change the ways of working.
See, the industry reality right now is that, especially in service industry, I would say, to reduce the cost and number of heads in the team, a Scrum Master also plays a role of PM at times. And there is a huge conflict in the roles of each other. And there is a new Agile project manager floating around in the service industry. And this really is an oxymoron, which really makes a life very difficult for a person, especially when he's handling 3, 4 teams. So this is industry is moving towards a very wrong direction, I feel, at times.
Yeah.
Especially
So
service industry.
You are absolutely right. So I worked in both product-based companies and service-based companies. So the way in which some of the leaders or middle-level managers understood Agile, Scrum, values, principles, that itself is very half-baked knowledge. So with their limited or half-baked knowledge, they try to implement Agile or Scrum, and they will have, now they are more confused. They try to use the old practices of traditional mindset. On top of that, they also try to get the benefits of Scrum. It doesn't work. So
exactly. So that's where we try to put as you said, when you try to put the word across on the rewards and recognition, and also on the kind of new practices, it makes us into a conflict mode rather than being accepted as a positive outcome from the Scrum Masters. They say we are not supposed to infringe on their territory. So it becomes more like a conflict if we try to give the best practices or tell this is not the right.
Yeah, you're right.
Don't say it is right or wrong, because essentially it is about coaching others. And don't say that you have an answer for everything. I think that's a key. It's not about going and asking that this is the best way of doing it. It's about questioning them, rather than giving answers.
So that's what I meant. Yeah, it's very hard. So that's where I mentioned one of the slide, right? So you'll have to understand the overall context and the culture of the organization. That's where the point which I mentioned, right? Art of the possible. So we cannot directly go and influence people. It definitely takes time to build relationship with them. Slowly start influencing the leaders or the HR. We have to build the trust by solving some of their immediate pain points. Slowly, once they start seeing a value in you by talking to you, by interactions with you, then slowly they'll start and giving respect to you and your experience as a Scrum Master. Then slowly start bringing them towards agility mindset. I mean, that's where you can start proposing bigger changes. That's what we are.
This will be a very positive aspect when there's a long-term project we are working on. But if it's a short-term project which is in red, as you said, deep red, the time is very less to act and also to let the seep in across. So that's where we feel the difficulties of a Scrum Master becomes more when we have a deep red project and we have to correct everything at a single shot. But at the same time, we are not having authority to take decisions.
That's true. That is true, actually. Because the companies want you to rectify everything, but they will never give you enough time.
I mean, that's where, yeah, I absolutely agree with you. It's not that easy, but try and go and talk to the leader who is pro agile, and go and try and see whether you can take up the help of that guy, and see slowly. It's because I've seen when I was there in Sabre Travel Technologies, there are mainly operating in 3 business units: airline, travel network, and hospitality solutions. One of the BU head leader was pro agile. So but the overall organization transformation, it was not really very successful. But one of the BU, the leader being the pro agile, the company could see a lot of benefits by adopting agile scrum in that particular BU. So slowly it started influencing the other 2 BUs as well. So it takes time, but that is where we'll have to ensure that it's not that the transformation is only coach's baby or scrum master's baby. So we'll have to start building a lot of success stories in our teams or in the BUs. Then slowly start building that community of practices and start success stories in the entire organization. Then slowly move everyone towards the agility. I mean, it's not that easy as I'm saying, but that is definitely the possibility we have.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Let's time check. I think we are already running past 7 minutes.
Thank you
Yeah,
again. Thank you.
enjoyable session. Thank you very much. I think you did manage to get people thinking, and people started brainstorming. So that's a very good result, Krishna. Thank you very much. Could you
Yeah,
hear
I
me?
mean,
Yeah.
yeah. I can. Is this Savita?
This is Asha.
Asha.
Right.
Okay, so you can you can also connect me on LinkedIn. You can send me any question that you have. I'll try to answer it offline. So again, thanks Davis and the ATM group for providing me an opportunity to share my experience with this the meetup.
Thank you.